everyone, and welcome back to another Explainer. It's incredibly easy to look back at the wildly influential figures of the past and just kind of see them as, well, mere characters in a textbook, right? Like untouchable people made of marble and bronze. But today, we're pulling back the curtain. We're going to look at the deeply personal flesh and blood relationships that literally changed the course of human civilization. Because it turns out, the grand tapestry of history was woven just as much by the human heart as it was by military strategy. So let's dive right into this really provocative question. Did love build the ancient world, or did it absolutely destroy it? I mean, it's fascinating to consider that history's greatest rulers, these people who commanded massive armies and vast empires, were driven by the exact same passions, the exact same insecurities and vulnerabilities that we deal with today. So did their romances act as a stabilizing foundation for the world, or were they basically a chaotic wrecking ball? To answer that, we're going to explore the whole spectrum of royal romance. We'll be organizing 7 world-shaking couples by the actual historical consequences of their love. We're going to cover 1. The human heart of history. 2. Love that destroyed empires. 3. Partners in radical change. 4. Monuments of eternal grief. 5. Ambition versus true love. And finally, 6. The universal human connection. Okay, starting off with Section 1, the human heart of history, a timeless phenomenon. Let's establish just how incredibly deep this romantic influence goes across human civilization. We're not just looking at some isolated incident in one specific era. We're talking about a timeline stretching from the 14th century BC with Nefertiti and Akhenaten in ancient Egypt, all the way up to 1840 AD with Queen Victoria and Prince Albert in Britain. Across thousands of years, entirely different continents, and completely different cultures, love has consistently been this ultimate hidden variable in global events. Moving right along to Section 2, love that destroyed empires. This is where we get into the chaos and ruin. And here's where we see the absolute dark side of royal romance. What happens when profound passion mixes with absolute power? Well, take Mark Antony and Cleopatra. Talk about a disastrous ripple effect. The whole controversy really sparked when Antony just completely abandoned his loyal Roman wife, Octavia, for a foreigner. That handed his rival Octavian the literal perfect propaganda weapon. But the cost was so much worse than bad PR. Antony was known as a master strategist, right? Yet his intense passion for Cleopatra completely clouded his military judgment. He made some absolutely massive blunders that ended in total defeat by Octavian's navy at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC. That forced Antony and Cleopatra into a tragic double suicide, completely wiped out the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt, and handed undisputed power straight to the Roman Empire. And if you thought that was bad, skip ahead a century and look at Emperor Nero. This guy became so captivated by the enchanting, but definitely married, Poppaea Sabina, that he essentially broke the Roman Empire just to be with her. To get around Rome's super strict divorce laws, he falsely accused his own popular wife, who was also coincidentally named Octavia, of adultery. He divorced her, banished her, and eventually forced her suicide. Then, Nero and Poppaea just went wild. They threw these incredibly decadent, over-the-top parties that literally strained the entire Roman economy. And the ending? Absolutely horrific. In a fit of rage, Nero fatally kicked a pregnant Poppaea. Completely devastated by what he'd done, his reign just spiraled into utter chaos, massive rebellion, and eventually his own suicide. Let's switch gears a bit for Section 3. Partners in radical change. We're talking empire-building love here. So we've all heard that old cliché, right? Behind every powerful man is a woman. Well, in 14th century BC Egypt, Akhenaten and Nefertiti completely leveled up that idea. They were not just lovers, they were radical political and religious co-rulers. Their shared vision was so intense, so profound, that they literally packed up and built a brand new capital city at Amara. Why? Just to launch a monotheistic religious revolution. They shifted all of Egypt from worshipping many gods to worshipping just one, the sun god, Aten. Nefertiti wasn't just standing on the sidelines. She was an absolutely essential partner in this massive cultural upheaval. We see a really similar dynamic playing out with Cyrus the Great and Cassandrain around 550 BC. Now, Cyrus was this legendary military conqueror. He united the Persian tribes and founded the massive Achaemenid Empire through sheer warfare. But Cassandrain? She was his absolute anchor. What started out as a standard political alliance quickly grew into this deep emotional bond, and she became his most trusted advisor. It's actually widely believed by historians that her influence is what inspired Cyrus's uniquely benevolent style of governance. He allowed conquered people to keep their own customs and religions, which was unheard of at the time. And that tolerance is exactly what stabilized his vast empire. Section 4, Monuments of Eternal Grief. Let's look at what happens when power loses its heart. The narrative takes a really sharp, heartbreaking turn here. Think about this for a second. What is the ultimate way to show your love? If you were Emperor Shah Jahan of the Mughal Empire back in 1612, and your absolute favorite wife, your closest confidant, your most trusted advisor, Mumtaz Mahal, died tragically while giving birth to your 14th child. I mean, how far would you go to honor her memory? The answer is 20. 20 long, agonizing years. A completely grief-stricken Shah Jahan dedicated 2 full decades of his life, hiring the absolute best architects and artisans in the world to painstakingly construct a breathtaking white marble mausoleum, an unbelievable feat of symmetry and beauty. That eternal tribute to his lost love is, of course, the building we all know today as the Taj Mahal. And we actually see a really striking parallel to that devastation over in Britain with Queen Victoria. She got married in 1840 in what was supposed to just be a highly calculated political arrangement, but it almost immediately blossomed into this profound, deeply passionate true love match. Prince Albert became her right-hand man for everything, championing education, technology, social welfare. So when Albert died tragically in 1861 at just 42 years old, it completely shattered her world. Victoria literally withdrew from public life and wore nothing but black for decades, until the day she died. Her unending, highly visible mourning actually went on to fundamentally reshape 19th century culture and how the Western world viewed family domesticity. All right, on to Section 5, Ambition versus True Love. This is the heartbreaking choice. Here we arrive at this incredibly poignant, standalone tragedy. What happens when a brilliant leader's career ambition actually defeats his own true love? Well, Napoleon Bonaparte's life is the perfect juxtaposition of this. On the one hand, you have the austere, utterly ruthless military genius, the emperor, totally obsessed with conquering Europe, and, crucially, securing a male heir for his dynasty. But on the other hand, you have the heartbroken husband. He fell head over heels in love with the captivating widow Josephine, literally at first sight in 1795. But because Josephine couldn't give him a child, that driving ambition eventually went out. In 1809, despite still being wildly in love with her, a weeping, openly struggling Napoleon reluctantly divorced Josephine. He broke both of their hearts simply to secure a political lineage. And that brings us to our final section, the universal human connection, history's true foundation. As we pull all these historical threads together to wrap up this explainer, it is so vital to recognize what these highly intimate stories actually mean for our broader understanding of the past. The private emotions of these rulers, they didn't just stay in the bedroom. They left absolute massive historical footprints. Antony and Cleopatra's passion literally toppled a dynasty. Akhenaten and Nefertiti's bond ignited a religious revolution. Shah Jahan and Mumtaz gave the world an architectural masterpiece, and Victoria and Albert completely rewired the cultural ideals of the 19th century. Their relationships directly forged global borders and human culture as we know it today. Because at the end of the day, these untouchable, seemingly godlike figures shared our most universal vulnerability. Just listen to Napoleon's final words in 1814. Right at the very end, he prioritizes the love he sacrificed right alongside his grand empire. He said, France, the army, the head of the army, Josephine. It's a really powerful reminder that love transcends politics, it transcends time itself. And it leaves us with one final lingering thought to chew on. Is history really driven by grand geopolitical strategies, or is it simply steered by the enduring, completely unpredictable passions of the human heart?